Now I'm going to give you another one-pager, and we're going to focus entirely on cost. If you're going to get a customer to actually make a decision with IBM, you need to give them a compelling fiduciary reason to do that. And let me share some numbers. We've got the ability with block applications to deliver a reduction in cost by 72%. By the way, that's important when you look at block applications that are growing anywhere from 25 to 40% year-on-year compounding. Now let's look at file applications. File is actually growing over 100x. And there again, we've got some real cost takeout advantages. We can lower the cost of doing files and objects by over 90%. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take one chart and we're going to move from left to right, and we're going to have a discussion centered completely on cost. So to do that, let's start off with your customer environment. Well, IBM was so convinced that we could save a significant amount of money with customers, we wanted to prove it. So we spent over $14 million with over 800 customers, small, medium, and large, all industries, to set a basis for an opportunity to give benefits centered around cost. And here's some data points that we found. We found that these customers were spending too much money on storage. Retail, 17% too much. Banks, finance, insurance companies, 50% too much. Telcos, media companies, 50% too much. And the most challenged industry was actually health. And healthcare companies were spending 74% too much. Now you'd ask yourself, now what is wrong with health? Nothing's wrong with health. It's the complexity of health systems. An EMR system which is rich with file and objects are driving that cost up. So very quickly, whether you're a retailer at 17% too much, bank, insurance, finance, telco, media company at 50%, they're all moving in the wrong direction with storage. Another thing that we found from the studies was a gross amount of inappropriate tiering of storage. And over 72% of customers had 80% of their storage in Tier 1. If you know anything about Tier 1 storage, that's the most expensive storage. Now here's an opportunity to actually shift this rather dramatically. An average Tier 1 storage footprint, 80% of your data, cost roughly about $3K a terabyte. Now, this is an opportunity for you to have a discussion around flash. Now, that opportunity just starts with two things. When you look at actually performance of data and applications in your customers, we've also run heat maps, and about 15% of customers' data is performing really poorly. Customers have to fix that because it's the most demanding applications, and it's the value that customers are providing to their end users and their customers. A quick fix for that is flash technology. Well, how quick? Well, we can install flash technology in less than a half hour. It's 2U inside, slides into a frame, half hour, it's up and running, and immediately those customers are getting a 50x performance advantage. So now all of a sudden that 15% of their workload just goes away. Now, when we also look at data, we see some other colors. We see green, which means the data is performing pretty well, and that represents about 25% of your data. But here's a great opportunity for you. With that very same flash technology, because of the price point for flash technology, you have an opportunity to do a simple substitution. For the Tier 1 storage that's spinning with flash technology, which is 50x to performance. And I like to think of it from a car perspective. It'd be the equivalent of if you walked into a Volkswagen dealership and wanting to buy a Passat. And you're to say, I've got $22,500 to buy a nice Volkswagen Passat. But that dealer walked up to you and said, sir, I can lower the cost by $5,000, but I can actually give you a Porsche 911. I don't know about you, but I would probably drive out of that dealership with $5,000 more money in my pocket and in that 911. And in this example, it's actually very similar. If you look at the price for Tier 1 storage, $3K a usable terabyte, right? If you look at the duty cycles for storage, most customers depreciate storage assets over a 3-year period. So every 3 years, they're going to be depreciating the asset. By comparison, flash technology has a duty cycle of 10 years. So let me just share some data points with you. If you looked at it over a 10-year period, when we're going to be very conservative here, a customer is going to buy Tier 1 storage for $3K, right? And then they're going to buy it again within 3 years or slightly longer. So now it's at 6K. But here's another data point that is stressing for customers. The utilization on that tier 1 storage, the stuff that spins disk drives, is less than 50%. By the way, 50% is generous. Tier 1 storage is 48%, Tier 2 is 44%, Tier 3 is 38%. But to make the math easy, we'll say 50%. So now I'm going to buy it at 3K. I'm going to buy it twice over a depreciation cycle, so it's 6K. And because of the inefficiency in utilization, I'm going to have to buy twice as much. So now the real cost point is 12K. Flash technology today is 10K. So that's easily, it makes the decision to actually buy flash a no-brainer. It's the Porsche decision in my way of thinking. So you've got 15% of your workload, 25% of your workload that is green, representing about 40% of a customer's workload that right now, because of price, should be replaced with flash with 50x to performance. By the way, that's just CapEx. We've not even begun to talk about anything about the other benefits like reduction in your software pricing by 30%, reduction in the amount of servers that you're going to need by 17%, your footprint advantages, the ability to put over 2.2 petabytes worth of data on a single floor tile delivering over a million IOPS versus the comparison of that, 630 floor tiles. I mean, even energy. These technologies actually take less than a coffee machine. So the first step for your in the conversation with your customer is flash. Solve the 15, deliver the same performance, less price for the other 25. So over 40% of your customers must be replaced with flash technology. Now let's keep moving to technology. If you move to utilization, IBM has the ability to drive utilization from below 50%, as I just talked about, to over 100%. Now, the advantage there is really rather compelling. When customers go out to buy a terabyte, they're not actually going out to buy a terabyte. They're going out to buy 2 terabytes because of that poor utilization. So you immediately there, you can cut the cost of your customer storage investments in half. Let's keep telling the financial story. That 80-20, 80% of the storage is in Tier 1, 20% is in Tier 2. It should be the reverse. IBM has technology that is smart, technologies that actually look at patterns, look at usage, and actually move data to where it should be when it needs to be there. And that technology is automatic, meaning you don't touch it. So we can take that 80-20 mix and flip it to the right mix of 20-80. When you do that, your price points change. So if you were paying 3K a usable terabyte at Tier 1 and you put that down at the bottom and you flip it, now you cut your cost dramatically. But the savings don't stop. That very same technology in the virtual stack has the ability to compress the data. And by the way, why not find out exactly the benefits that you've got to get? We've got a technology called the Compressimator where you can download this technology in about 7 minutes, and then it's going to run the compression ratios against your applications. Let me share some numbers with you. Exchange, which is the number one workload in the industry, it's probably about 12% of your data in your data center. We can reduce that by 50%. Applications like Oracle, SQL, DB2, 85%. Applications like SAP, SAS, another 90%. So just being conservative, we can reduce your need and put twice as much storage in the same footprint, delivering a 5x advantage because of compression. Doesn't stop there. Now, when we look at data, about 15% performing poorly, we've solved that with flash technology. 25% performing okay, but we've delivered flash technology at a reduced price point, 50x performance and improvement. Now let's move over to other data, things like file and object. When we look at data, about 60% of customers' data is what I would describe as gray and black. Now let's share some data points with you. Block applications, about 10% of block applications are being used. Another data point, for about 30 days. After 30 days, customers don't use their block applications. Files and objects, about 1% of a file and object data is actually being used. But in this case, by single-digit communities of people, And by the way, for the frequency of about 1 week, after 30 days not used at all. This gray and black data also sits on the wrong tier, tier 1. So we've got the ability to move that technology to Emmy-winning technology like the LTO and the LTFS. And give you the capacity to drop your storage cost for this gray and black data, which is the biggest chunk of your data, by 125th. Now, we can even move it even further. If you've got lots of it and you need to really nail it real hard, we can deliver spectrum scale and deliver another 90% savings against that with supercomputing performance advantage. So if you look at block data, if you're following the financial benefits, we can drop block data cost by 72%. If you're looking at file and object, the fastest growing, we can drop that up to 90%. So when you begin to have a conversation with your customer, they'll act on a 40% advantage. We can deliver in excess of 72 and 90. And when you have those conversations, you give your customers a reason to look at IBM. And when they look at IBM, they'll choose IBM because we advantage them from a fiduciary responsibility.